Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of HarlequinCasts Dawn of War 2 Retribution. Today we are going to be looking at the finals from the recent THQ Insider event. This was the Dawn of War Retribution launch event, and the winner from this tournament took home a copy of Homefront. So we already took a look at the two semifinals games. All of these games are single elimination, best of one. And now let's take a look here at the brackets for the semifinals. So we already saw MeteorvsBunny. MeteorvsBunny won against Phoenix, and 2marston, aka Chef Elite, won against Redders. So now let us move on and check out MeteorvsBunny versus 2marston here today in a Space Marine versus Imperial Guard battle. Again, for more information on this kind of stuff, check out THQ Insider at twitter.com. Or hell, check out me, HarlequinCasts, at twitter.com. So, taking a look at this replay, let's go ahead and get this started. On the lower side of the map here, playing as the Red Inquisitor, we have MeteorvsBunny for the Imperial Guard. And to the north, playing as the War Boss, we have Chef Elite for the Orcs. And by the way, it's important to note that Chef Elite is actually playing as random this entire tournament. I didn't realize that in the first replay where we saw him playing as Space Marine, but he did just have random heroes and random races this entire time. So that's what's going on there. Anyhow, looking at their initial build orders, no surprises here from Chef Elite. We do see two squads of Shooter Boys being produced. And for MeteorvsBunny, we already have a Sentinel out on the battlefield, stomping their way towards the middle, being followed up by a Guardsman squad. So, very similar build order to what we saw last time, perhaps. Catachan Devils coming out soon. We'll have to see. Looks like these initial Shooter Boys here are getting chased away a little bit by this Sentinel here. That's exactly what the Sentinel is good for early game. And you can see all three Orc squads right now just kind of pouring their fire into the Sentinel, who is now forced to kind of moonwalk out of there in a classy sort of fashion. Towards the north, we can see that the War Boss has gone off on his own, just kind of capping points here. He has capped this northern victory point. Meanwhile, Mrs. Adrastia, the Inquisitor, has had no problem whatsoever taking care of that southern victory point. Upgrading a single power node, upgraded power node here for the Orcs as well. And for the time being, stuff is just moving on out. We can see here the Sentinel was engaged in a slight little bit of melee there with the War Boss, who is just kind of ignoring that for the time being, but now he is being set upon by Sentinels and Guardsmen alike, going to have to retreat on out of there for the time being. While all of this distraction is going on, it looks like they capped this power node. And these Shooter Boys are capping the central position here. Looks like probably going to grab this victory point soon. No, they are going to fire away like crazy here. You can see that Miss Adrastia here is leading the charge, coming on in, putting some pressure on these guys. Calling down Hammer of the Witches right now on the War Boss as well, kind of stunning him for a second there. And just massive firefighting going on. Looks like these Shooter Boys have been upgraded for the big shooter, but the Sentinel wants to come on in there and get in for some ground pound, perhaps. No. Looks like he just barely missed out on that opportunity, but like I said before, the Inquisitor is just continuing to doggedly pursue these gentlemen, hacking and slashing at them this way and that. And there we have the ground pound coming out of the Sentinel right now, knocking back that War Boss, but the War Boss responding with his own stomp, knocking back some of the Guardsmen, and even a special attack here from Miss Adrastia. Look at her just standing up against that humongous Orc, and the Orc forced to retreat here. Much as I suspected, we do have some Catachan Devils coming out on the field as well. Let's take a look around at the power situation while we're waiting for that. We've got double power generators going up right now for Chef Elite. No sign of power just yet for the Imperial Guard, but that's fine. Looks like the Inquisitor decided to take some quick solace here in this this tower, while the Slugger Boys were kind of poking around this side of the map, but the Sentinel has taken care of business there. I'm guessing the Slugger Boys just capped this victory point. The victory points right now are 2-0 in favor of Chef Elite, but note, by the way, once again, the scoreboard is reversed in terms of color. So whenever you see that scoreboard, flip-flop the colors, everything else is fine. Sentinel moving around here, decapping some points. Inquisitor, looks like Inquisitor wanted to move ahead and just kind of cover for the Guardsmen coming up in the rear. Got to cap that victory point. Catachan Devils right now, you can see using the old reliable grenade barrage right there, knocking back these shooters. Now throwing some smoke even, just to kind of cover their path a little bit. But you saw a really good use of that aiming. What's that ability from these big shooters here? Using it just to slightly suppress the Catachans for a second as they backed away. Catachan's now getting quite focus fired by all of these Shooter Boys. However, the Sentinel comes in out of nowhere, putting down a nice looking ground pound there, knocking back the Shooter Boys. Very angry War Boss here with this custom shooter, chasing after this Sentinel, but not really going to be able to get too much done for the time being. And it looks like, oh, I thought what we had there was a Hammer of the Witches lined up on the War Boss, but apparently not. Inquisitor now being knocked all over the place by this War Boss, going to have to retreat for the time being here. Guardsmen backing away, Sentinels backing away, and just guns a-blazing. It looks like Chef Elite is going to be charging on into this victory point here without too much resistance. He does have a full 3 generators up right now, and we see our first 2 generators up here for the Imperial Guard as well. These guardsmen stopping for just a moment to repair the Sentinel. Nice little custom special attack there out of the War Boss, but he's going to have to back away for the time being. But all of that looks like perhaps won him a victory point and a requisition point. Ooh, a little bit of cool-looking flanking going on here. We have a Guardsman squad upgraded with Flamers heading up to the generator farm here for Chef Elite. We'll have to see what's going to go on there. Meanwhile, massive fighting going on here. Now he's angry. The War Boss charging in. Oh my god, getting very low on hit points while doing so. He has his angry bits allowing him to just charge on in, knocking models over like that. We can see a little bit of suppression coming out of these shooter boys. High explosive shot from the Catachans, knocking back these gentlemen. Ground pound from the Sentinel as well, doing some damage here to these shooter boys. And the shooter boys, looks like both sides inflicting heavy damages to one another. However, I do believe that MeteorvsBunny has the advantage and is going to be on top of things. And while all of this was going on, just as a reminder, these guardsmen with their flamethrowers have just been burning down this generator farm right now, taking out the power node, taking out one generator, going to be going for a second one here. And, oh, it looks like cutting that a little bit short, retreating as the Slugger Boys come up from behind. And here we get to see, once again, the effect of melee on retreating units there. You can see they did just a lot of kills there in just a brief moment when those troops ran past them. Over here on the left, we can see a Sentinel just kind of shooting away at this power node. No big deal there. And the Inquisitor is coming back once again to try and grab this victory point. Jumping over here on the right-hand side of the screen, we can see that the Slugger Boys are, you know, deep into enemy territory, more or less, capping away at this. The score right now is about to be 2-1 in favor of MeteorvsBunny. However, MeteorvsBunny is behind. So 394 points for MeteorvsBunny, 473 for Chef Elite is how that works. Again, it's confusing. The colors are backwards. So the War Boss now getting angry and charging on in, but no, it looks like he gets knocked back right then at the very last second. And Old Reliable Grenades blowing the hell out of those shooter boys, getting knocked back quite a bit as well. He is still continuing to pursue these guys into melee, doing quite a bit of melee damage here. But man, double flamethrowers coming out of these guardsmen, that's going to hurt him a little bit here pretty soon. He is chopping away, doing a pretty good job at you know, putting some hurt onto these Catachans, but he needs to get out of there. Man, his hit points are getting so low. Mr. Warboss, look out. Nice little stomp there right at the end, and I think with that much hit points, he's just barely got to be able to get out of there. And the Catachans continuing to be shot apart by all of these shooter boys right now, and I think the Sentinel has had enough of that. Charging on in, trying to get a ground pound off. Will he do it? He is definitely faster than they are. Yes, he does. Stomping the ground, stunning those shooter boys quite a little bit there, and Chef Elite sent running home for the time being. It is still 2-1 in favor of MeteorvsBunny. However, Chef Elite does have some breathing room since he is ahead in terms of victory points. Inquisitor Adrastia here, now on the right-hand side of the map, capping the 3rd victory point, threatening a 3-cap.